People complain that can't.
There's 2 retained, 4 added back, 15 that would be transitioned, which 4 eligible to retire right away.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Independent City Council for Monday, March 18th, 2019. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Rachel Williams Glenn from St. Paul AME Church. Here she comes. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. O great and awesome God, we thank and praise you for being a God who loves, who heals, who strengthens, who restores. Lord God, Lamb of God, we just ask that today, oh God, that you would open our hearts and our minds and our ears to receive what is good and best for our city. Lord God, bless us, keep us, strengthen us, and give us a mind to be together forever. One people, one city. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Council members Huff.
Here.
Perkins. Here. Doherty.
Here.
DeLucy. Here. Robertson.
Here.
Van Camp.
Here.
Mayor Weir.
Here. First on our agenda is citizens' request to speak. We had one citizen who requested to speak in advance. That is Grant Watkins Davis, which is to speak to the council regarding the proposed location for the new City Justice Center.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Grant Watkins Davis. I'm a child of independence and a lifelong resident. Tonight, I hope to prevent a mistake from being made with regards to the ongoing discussions of a new police building by the Utility and Communications Centers. I am not here to dispute that the headquarters lacks the space our officers need to be as effective as we need them to be. I am not here to dispute that there are many efficiencies that could be achieved by having our entire justice system under one roof. I am not here to dispute that our jail facilities are woefully inadequate as a tool of rehabilitation and to reduce criminal activity in our community. These truths are self-evident. I am here to encourage you to take a step back, see the whole picture, and notice the heavy toll that will be levied on our community by putting a critical government facility in such an isolated location. This move will have dire consequences on the interconnectivity of our government and the ease of access our citizens have to these services. The intersection of Highway 291 and 23rd Street is congested, chaotic, and constricting the growth of our city. Selecting this location will generate huge volumes of traffic in an already congested area and will negate any improvements in efficiency that can be made from the consolidation of these resources. Where important community resources are located has an incredible impact on how people choose to move about and get around in a city. And all too often, this piece of analysis is not properly undertaken. More importantly, the relocation will cause immediate harm to the most vulnerable members of our community who rely on an already limited transit network to reach these critical services. Beyond our own citizenry, those who visit our city already have a difficult time using the transit system to make it to court on time. This move will lead to worse attendance at all dockets, more warrants being issued, and fewer fines being addressed in a timely manner. We already struggle with compliance and positive outcomes in our justice system. Why will we make it harder for these people? The only way that this issue could be addressed would be an immensely expensive reorganization and expansion of our transit network, another cost our city is unlikely to be capable of shouldering. All of these challenges add up to a decision that will cost the city, the community, and our local economy a noticeable amount of wealth over the coming decades. Yes, money will be saved building on a lot that is already owned by the city. And yes, there will be an easy way to expand the building in the future. When you compare these savings to the cost that this move will exact on the community, it should become apparent that we will be saving a dime today by spending many extra dollars in the future. Passing on a bill and a problem to our children and our grandchildren is not in their best interests. None of you can be faulted or blamed for coming to this decision. It makes perfect sense based on the way that cities across the country have been evaluating their problems and planning to meet their needs for many decades. A city identifies something that needs to be made new through construction. A city finds a cheap lot in an underdeveloped part of the city, and we all assume that nobody will have trouble accessing it. Today, it might make sense. If we assume the world of tomorrow will be having similar constraints to today, it might make sense. But the impulse to sprawl out further and increasingly isolate critical community resources can no longer be healthily maintained. Decisions must be made based on the future we will live in, not just the present we currently occupy. The path we are on will only lead to people having to drive further to meet their needs, spending more time in traffic that only costs them money and stress, and those without expensive personal vehicles being further isolated within their own homes. I am asking the council to postpone a final decision until more information can be gathered on the true costs this move will have in wealth and outcomes for the city. I am not one to stand idly by and throw criticism on those that have so nobly stepped into the arena. So I would be more than happy to assist in gathering that information over the coming weeks and present it to the council at a study session, or to sit on a committee that takes a hard look at the issues I have brought up tonight. The world only gets better when we plant trees whose shade we will never sit under and make decisions that do not leave those who come after us with problems that could have easily been avoided with a little foresight. Thank you all for your time. I hope you will take my words to heart and begin the process of reevaluating where we should locate our Justice Center.
Thank you. As I call your name, if you please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Our next speaker is J. Lowell Croft, who wishes to speak on AMI.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Lowell Croft, and I live at 4319 South Brentwood Street, and I've been a resident of Independence for over 45 years. Automated metering infrastructure, AMI, has been discussed and debated for several years here in Independence, starting back in 2015. It began with the council authorizing the city staff to spend $446,000 to hire a consultant to perform a feasibility study and create a project blueprint plan for AMI. The city staff issued a RFP, and after an extremely thorough review of the proposals submitted, the evaluation committee recommended to the council that AMI should be implemented and that Core and Main provided the most reliable and cost-effective solution. The city's Public Utility Advisory Board also reviewed the findings, and they have voted multiple times to forward the same recommendations to the council. They unanimously did so again at their most recent meeting on March 7th. The net cost savings over 15 years are projected to be $44 million, which will ultimately benefit the ratepayers. Instead of moving forward with the recommendations, the council has elected to defer action on this issue multiple times. They've also asked city staff to renegotiate the contract with Honeywell, which is the less desirable and more costly vendor choice. Instead of getting the price reduced, the latest proposal from Honeywell has increased in price by $1.6 million. And with contract negotiations still in progress, it is stated in your agenda packet that even more additional costs are expected pending that agreement. By stark contrast, Core and Main submitted a letter to the city dated March 6, 2019, stating that they agree to stand behind their August 2nd, 2018 best and final offer with no changes. This letter is also included in the council's agenda package. During my professional career, I have gained extensive experience with both mesh and point-to-multipoint systems. Based on my professional experience, a point-to-multipoint network is vastly superior to a mesh network for a citywide implementation. The biggest problem that I have encountered with wireless data networks is interference by other users operating in the same frequency spectrum. Honeywell's proposed use of unlicensed public frequency spectrum is just inviting problems from interference. I first of all recommend that the council move forward with implementing AMI to secure the long-term savings that it will bring to the ratepayers. I believe that AMI will become even more inevitable in the future, and the cost will most likely only continue to rise. A no vote on AMI does nothing but delay the future cost savings for our ratepayers that AMI will bring. When you choose to move forward on AMI, you have two choices. You can vote to implement Honeywell's mesh system, which will cost at least $5 million more than Core and Main, and Honeywell's proposed mesh network will be more vulnerable to interference problems. The ongoing maintenance cost will also be higher forever. The contract with Honeywell is also still being negotiated with unanswered questions about what the final cost will be. There is no logical reason to support this option other than what can only be construed as possible political graft. The other choice is to vote to implement Core and Main's point-to-multipoint system, which provides the least cost, the best technical approach, and they have much greater experience providing hosted AMI services for over 600 utilities versus Honeywell's 12.
1 minute, Mr. Croft.
Thank you. The choice to secure future savings for our ratepayers seems abundantly clear. I ask the council to vote in support of implementing AMI and in support of awarding the contract to Core and Main when you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Croft. Our next speaker is Mark Velder, who requests to speak about mayor's personal flags on city poles.
Well, Mayor, with all due respect, I was here in June because it was my understanding, people coming to me and talking to me about you going to Boston, and you were handed.
Mr. Velder, I would remind you of the council rules of procedure that you're not to address any council member. You're here to speak to the entire council.
Then the whole council should know that there was a flag that was put up. It is a sodomite flag. I will not call it a gay flag. They're not happy. It's a sodomite flag, and that flag went up without the approval of anybody in the city. That went up unnoticed. I've been talking to people now since June, and people said, we didn't even know that flag went up. Now, I presented my case back then. I gave you the word of God, and I even said this, that we had an invocation in the name of Jesus Christ, and then we want to run up a sodomite flag, which is east to west when it comes to God. God and that flag, and what that flag represents is perversion, absolute perversion. Whoever's responsible for putting that flag up has no knowledge of the Holy Scriptures. They have no love for God, no love for this book. Now, I remind you, I know how that they're trying to get it in here. It just says other flags. But if that LGBT flag, as it's known, goes up, I want you to know the judgment of God, it's going to come down on this country and it's going to come down on this city. No man, we had an invocation here about the Lamb of God. The Lamb of God says these things about that flag. But the men of Sodom, here they're called gay, and if you come with me tonight, would you please stand? And I only knew about this an hour and a half. I'd have 500 people here. But the men of Sodom were wicked sinners before the Lord exceedingly. Genesis 13:13. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. And it says, likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, so a man with woman, that's natural, man with man is unnatural, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat. That's called GRID. AIDS officially was called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency. All right? Now, you want to put that LGBT flag up. I would offer my services as pastor to teach you the Bible, because the God of the Bible, all right, and anybody else's God that would honor that flag is two different Jesuses, two different gods, two different Bibles. What a shame, what a filthy shame, perverted shame to honor those people. Now, I brought a couple other flags here. If you're going to put your flag up, or as the council, what about the Holocaust victims? 6 million of them were killed. Now, you get 50 sodomites killed in a bar in Florida, and they think that's something big. You got 6 million. I think this one ought to go up in honor of all the Holocaust victims. And I think it ought to fly in August. I think that's the month they honor the Jews. And let me say this one was taken down because supposedly this is about hate speech. This is supposedly about hate speech. That sodomite perverted flag is hate speech. It is a hate speech against God's word. I've been doing this for 31 years. I talk to people on the street. I know exactly what they feel about God in the Bible. If you don't, come with me. Let's go street preaching. What about equal rights? Why do they not? Why don't they not get the same? If that LGBT flag goes up, does this get equal rights? Does this get equal rights? Yesterday was the St. Patrick's Day. I didn't see an Irish flag up. I didn't see a green flag for Ireland up. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You're opening a can of worms, and you're going to get a Muslim flag up next. All right? And if you knew anything about the Bible, you'd have to be ignorant to support Islam. All right? Now, if that's hate speech, hey, listen, I got 5 minutes.
We're keeping the time up at the podium.
And with all due respect, I'm just asking. I know there's some people here. If I'd have had time, I'd have brought them. There are some policemen over there that are upset about this thing, too. And I wish I'm going to bring 500 if this thing goes up. So I'm just asking, just keep the flags the way they are, all right? It's offensive. Listen, there's two ways. It's a two-way street.
1 minute, Mr. Velder.
All right, you can offend God as well. And that's who I'm worried about offending. Now, just give you a little bit of a history here. Some of your most wicked people who ever lived were sodomites. John Wayne Gacy, Dean Corell, Jeffrey Dahmer. The head of the SS and Hitler's killing machine were homosexuals. All right? They're not to be embraced. Now, who are you going to stand with? You're going to stand with God or against God? And I want to tell you something right here. I don't know if you've got a denomination that supports that, or a priest or a pastor who supports LGBT and sodomy. They do not love this book. They do not love this book.
Ma'am, you're not up here speaking. Please be quiet while the speakers are speaking. We are keeping the time at the podium, and we will let him know when his time is up. If I have to ask you again, you'll be removed from the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I don't hate anybody, but I love God. And if it comes between God and you, I'm choosing God. And that's how it should be, too, for you. I do not hate you people. I pray for these people.
Mr. Velder, your time is up.
All right. Thank you.
Next speaker is Kenneth Love on Rental Ready. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading. Mr. Love.
We'll do 3 minutes.
You will have 3 minutes since you've spoke on this topic previously.
I don't come with any paperwork tonight. My name's Kenneth Love. I live at 16808 East George Franklin Drive, Independence, Missouri. First off, I want to thank the Rental Ready program for getting the 2 complaints of 3600 Marshall and 521 Huddick owners to become business people per the ordinance of the city. But what I do hate about this is how much money is the city council going to allow the Rental Ready program to waste contacting these owners? What do I mean by that? Letters that are being sent certified, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5, I know for one. 4 for another. How many hours did they spend phone call after phone call begging the owners of these properties to become or buy their business license? Don't know that answer, but it's a waste of the program's money if they're going to sit there and have to call and call and call. We have ordinances. All it takes, Ms. Mayor, City Council, is to shut one down. That's all it takes. How do you shut one down legally is the question. That's an easy answer that nobody has thought of or done yet. And what is it? All they have to do is go out there and find something wrong with the property. They can legally shut it down. The tenants be put out, boarded up. I promise you from that day on, landlords will be at the front door to get their business license. Now, out of the 2, The one that had a warrant for his arrest still has a warrant for his arrest due to the fact that the Rental Ready program kept calling and begging him and advising him that he could get his license legally over the internet.
1 minute, Mr. Love.
Which is very true. He can get his license over the internet. But in this situation, y'all should really look at redoing something with the rules of this. With that being said, I hope y'all vote no tonight due to the fact that I don't want to see none of my union brothers out without a job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Our next speaker is Lucy Young, who is here to speak on AMI. Mrs. Young.
Thank you. States reporting problems either over billing, fires, or misreads with the meters that you want to are voting on this evening. Georgia, Texas, Hawaii, New York, California, Minnesota, Nevada, Florida, Illinois, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Mississippi. Also in Canada and England. Tinsley Park outside Chicago, Illinois, Public Works Director said, the meters don't overcharge, they misread what's passing through. What's the difference? The retired Public Works employee from that same city said, this was a disaster from day one. PG&E replaced over 70,000 electric meters due to fire. Not all of them were on fire, but because they couldn't find the cause of the fires. Nevada Public Utilities Commission is investigating census smart meters after 70 meter fires. They replaced them with digital technology. Susquehanna Power, which is in Canada and known as Sask Power, replaced 105,000 census meters, spending an additional $15 million. Portland General Electric replaced 70,000 census meters. Philadelphia replaced 186,000 census meters. Orlando Utility Commission said customers were passed on cost with hardware problems. They returned to the digital meters. Edgewater, Florida built census for all the overtime related to census meters and replaced over 10,000 transmitters. Westport, Mississippi called them a political football with all the misreads on customer usage. It required a $5 million upgrade. Misreads of water usage affects our sewer bills. The more that it says that we are using, the higher our next year's sewer bills are going to be. Census meters are more expensive than other meter types. Census limits our choices in the future. Badger, who is with the Honeywell program, has live battery concerns in their cellular radios that could result in long-term cost. There is less flexibility in Badger's proprietary data. Census with iPearl is a plastic water meter which is vulnerable to weather and moisture. This affects the circuit board inside the meter and creates the potential for misreads. Another drawback is since they are all plastic, there is no part of the meter that can be repaired and they all have to be replaced. Now, the contracts you're looking at tonight, both of them are for 10 years. And I'm assuming with the information that was released to the PUAB, it had a 15-year marker on it. I'm going to assume that there's a 15-year life expectancy on these meters. We've not really been provided that information. So what is the anticipated life of these meters? Every 15 years, we're going to be facing another $30 million cost plus coming at us. The gentlemen that are sitting here tonight cost you about $2 million a year. If you multiply that by 10, that is a lot less than the $30 million that you're going to have to pay for these meters in 10 years. The payoff on the meters is 8 years for the Core and Main and 9 years for the Honeywell before you even see any profit. So if the contract ends in 10 years and the life expectancy is 15 years, how are we ever going to get to it was table 2 in the PUAB information, of $45 million cost savings?
1 minute, Ms. Young.
We've never been shown those numbers. Now, I'm not saying there's not a better way to do things, but it's certainly not using these systems. I think it has to be really rethought of, and if you're going to invest in an AMI system, make sure that when water goes behind the electric meter, that it doesn't cause fires, and make sure when water goes into the water meters, that it doesn't cause problems with overreads. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Young. Our next speaker is Erin Talcott, who wishes to speak about AMI. Ms. Talcott.
Thank you. Independents cannot afford AMI. Residents cannot afford the higher bills that come with smart meters. We are told that smart meters are necessary to capture the kilowatt hours of usage our analog meters are missing. Increased kilowatt hours of usage collected means higher bills. No one can dispute that fact. November 29, 2018, Fox 4KC reported that 1/3, or 18,000, of IPL customers were delinquent in paying their bills, with 5,000 of those 90 days delinquent. If that many customers are already having trouble paying our high rates, how will they afford even higher bills with smart meters? A large proportion of our residents are seniors, retired, unemployed or underemployed, on fixed incomes, or just families struggling to make ends meet. They simply can't afford the higher bills associated with smart meters. Smart meters are the necessary step to usher in peak pricing. For those who don't know what this is, please research this. The claims that smart meters help customers save money is disingenuous. Studies show people are unable or unwilling to change their usage behaviors, so very few people ever save money with smart meters. For example, who wants to get up an hour or two earlier than they already do before work or school to do laundry in order to avoid a higher rate later in the day? The recent 2% decrease that Councilman Huff worked so hard for and the council graciously approved will be more than nullified by the higher bills from smart meters. The city as a whole cannot afford AMI. We have more pressing problems we need to address. Replacing our analog meters with smart meters is unnecessary and dangerous. Analog meters are and have been reliable and accurate for decades. On the other hand, a smart meter's accuracy diminishes after only about 3 years and is then no more accurate than an analog. Congressional testimony revealed smart meters actually only last 5 to 7 years, not the 15+ years the industry claims. I quote, "These devices are now computers, and so they have to be maintained. They don't have the lifespan of the existing meter, which is 20 to 30 years. These devices have a lifespan of between 5 to 7 years. And so the challenge that the industry has is making sure they maintain their smart grid environment, not neglect it," end quote. This makes sense, as I do not know of any computer, even enclosed, that could withstand the elements outside in Missouri 15+ years, and that maintenance will not be free. Contrary to what we've been told, analog meters can still be purchased and replaced when necessary. They can also be refurbished to their original state and accuracy. Our so-called antiquated analog meters have sure done a fine job building a multi-million-dollar nest egg for the city to sit on. As great as the concept of solar energy is, KSHB reported in August of 2018 that Independence will lose more than $15 million over 25 years on our solar farm project. Are we to believe that loss won't be reflected in future higher rates for IPL customers? And now we are to believe that spending twice that amount, nearly $30 million, will also be a wise investment for the city? I don't have time to address the costs if a homeowner needs to upgrade their home's electrical wiring in order to safely accommodate a smart meter, or if their appliances and electronics are damaged from brownouts or remote shutoff, or if the smart meter causes a house fire. I am hoping that if during the installation process it is deemed necessary for a homeowner to upgrade their home's electrical system to safely accommodate the smart meter, that those homeowners will immediately be offered the option to opt out rather than be required to finance an upgrade to their home system. Finally, we have been promised that opt-out program should one of these contracts pass in the council tonight. However, we have not seen an official opt-out document nor the finalized official terms and agreements we would be subject to.
1 minute, Ms. Talcott.
Thank you. From the Missouri City plant demolition to the solar farm and now AMI, we are starting to see a pattern here with these multi-million-dollar projects, and they have not fared well for us. None of them bring our rates down. Please vote no on these expensive, unnecessary, and dangerous smart meters. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Chance, who wishes to speak about smart meters. Ms. Chance.
I'd like to go ahead and just, I don't have a speech, but I'm going to back up what those two ladies.
Okay, would you? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Denise Wiss, is that right? Who wishes to speak about the danger of radiation on children from, I'm sorry, I can't, from the meters on every home and business in Independence. Thank you.
I'm kind of new to this. I hadn't heard about it until kind of late in the game. I came to your meeting. You guys presented that these smart meters present no more radiation than our computer towers, our Wi-Fi towers, our cell phones, and our cordless phones. I was shocked. I didn't know all that stuff was in my home. Went home and did research. I have a choice. I can get rid of all that. I can, according to the internet, we can cover it with baking pans, metal, that's supposed to block it. So to begin with, I was ignorant of all that. I've been on the internet. I've researched things like these ladies. They've gone way beyond what I could find out. And I didn't know where else. I went into it with an open mind. Okay, let's see whose side. I didn't find anybody really in favor of them good. The battery in the meter is supposed to be equivalent to the cell phone batteries and computer batteries that are catching fire. This is going to be on the outside of my home. The American Cancer Society said that a cell phone battery could cause cancer in young children, especially with their brains. I have a warning in my cell phone that says not to let young children put it up to their heads. So this is going to be on the outside of my home. Every home in Independence, every apartment, every business, they're going to be doing their little radiation things. I get things in the mail and I see things on TV about these little children with cancer. Can you picture them in your face? You've seen them. Can you see those children? If you knew that your smart meters could give 1,000 children in Independence cancer, would you put them in? If you knew it could give 500 kids cancer, would you put them in? If they knew one child could get cancer, would you put them in? Is it worth it? What are you going to save? You have grandchildren, you have children. That's my favorite thing, is to be a grandma. So I'm asking you not to put these in, not to force them. I don't want it in my home. I don't want it in my neighborhood. I can't see there's not going to be some way to do something else without the potential risk to our future.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes all of our citizen comments. This takes us to our consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Excuse me. Mayor Weir, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager in poll 19-712.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
There's been a second. Councilman Van Camp has requested a poll 19-712. Are there any other items anyone wishes to pull? Yes, Councilman Doherty.
19-714.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can I have 19-720, please?
Okay. Any others?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
item number 3 and 19715 and 197.
Hang on. Slow down a second. 3.
3,
Uh-huh.
19715,
Uh-huh.
19716.
Okay. Doesn't leave much. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus resolution 19712? Resolution 19714, resolution 19715, resolution 19716, resolution 19720, and item number 3.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Councilman Van Camp, 19712.
I'd like to make a motion to send this back to staff indefinitely. The vote's been taken by the Jackson County Board, and I feel it's irrelevant at this point.
Okay, there's a motion to postpone indefinitely. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Motion passes. I believe next was Councilmember Doherty, 19714.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has something to do with the flags. Didn't we sort it? My thing is, why are we stirring this up? I think what we only should run is the state flag, the U.S. flag. And we sorted this thing out last summer. Why don't we just leave well enough alone? Because what we're going to do is we're going to have all sorts of different groups coming up here lobbying to have all the different flags on the flagpole. Some will be controversial, some won't be. Some should be up and some shouldn't be up. So let's just make it simple, run the ones that we've got and leave the rest alone. So I just think that we kind of sorted this out last summer. Why do we need to revisit it again? That's it.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion to pass 19714.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for 19714. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Madam Mayor, excuse me.
Yeah.
When you say to pass it,
Motion for approval.
Motion
Move
for
to approve
approval.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
motion to approve it.
Okay.
How about that? There we go.
For 19714. Madam
you.
City Clerk.
Councilmembers Huff.
No.
Perkins.
No.
Doherty.
No.
DeLucy.
no.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
No.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. 19714 fails. Councilmember Perkins, 19720.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure you all took a good look at the map that's in our overlay, and I don't know if you were able to take a firm look at the streets. I could not read the streets myself at all. So I'm going to ask that we delay this for 2 weeks so we can get a map that we can take a strong look at. So I'll ask to move this for 2 weeks so we can review.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Would you like a presentation between now and then on the?
No presentation needed.
Want a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I'd like to see the map. If you guys can decipher that, then you are better than me. And before we take the vote as well, I think this will be a good opportunity to talk about the East Kentucky Bridge that has possibly been deemed to be not suited for travel. So Mr. City Manager, I know we've had some discussion on that, and I take a few minutes with this, as this is a good segue into a possible bridge that we have to take a look at to see if we need to replace. There was some talk on social media this late last week, early weekend, that this bridge is in extreme disrepair. It's a major bridge that takes a lot of traffic from the north side of 24 Highway and the Fairmont area up there. So do you have any insights, new updates that we can assure our citizens that we're looking at this and taking this serious?
Yeah, so it was discovered, over, as Councilmember Perkins said, late last week, that this bridge was no longer deemed safe for passage by passenger vehicles, so it was closed. Further investigation here at the beginning of the new week, we believe that that is in the Kansas City, Missouri system of infrastructure. We're working to confirm that. Regardless, I think we can assure people in the metropolitan area, certainly here at home, that we're working to, with our partners in Kansas City, to assess that and make a determination so that that can be reopened. But as of right now, we believe that to be an asset of the city of Kansas City.
The boundaries get pretty weird right through there, so as soon as we get some information back, I'd love to be able to pass that on.
Certainly, and I can assure you and the council we won't play political football with this. We'll get to the bottom of it, figure out who it is, and if it's ours, get it addressed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to postpone 19720 to the next council meeting? Yes? Yes.
Hey, I just got a question, Councilman Perkins, because what this says here, it's an invitation to bid the project. So if you put, and this was only just so we could have the asphalt contractor selected, so we were ready to roll out as soon as we could because of all the potholes we've had this year. So what it would be is whether we did the bridge or not, we're just going out with bids to select a contractor. And then once that's selected, then we can argue over who owns the bridge.
Oh, true. Yeah, no, the bridge was just a separate issue. I thought it was a nice
Oh, I thought you were,
segue.
oh, okay, I thought you were tying this in there. Because what the concern on my part is, if we get to delaying this too long, we won't have a contractor ready to go as soon as the existing contract runs out and the season for asphalt begins. As the winter has been brutal on the streets, I don't want to have a month or so lapse between the old contract and the new one as they sort through the time to get the bids, open the bids, sort the bids out, and award the contract. So as long as we're just going to go one cycle, that's good, but I hate to see 2 or 3 cycles while I thought, sorted out who owned the bridge on Kentucky.
No, one cycle would be perfect there for that. And would that hinder any type of delay or?
No, we'll work to get the council something more workable, a list or something, a map that's more legible than what you've got here tonight. It won't hinder, but we would certainly appreciate the council's input and concurrence with what we're putting out to bid, because that does have some final bearing on what the bids we get back, mobilization costs, where we're going, et cetera.
Mr. City Manager, we don't typically vote, we don't normally issue that contract until when, May?
We have found that the sooner we can get out there ahead of the other municipalities, vendors are more competitive with their pricing.
The current contract goes through when?
I would have to, yeah. No, that's fine. I'll very quickly defer to our Public Works Director. So complete in October.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So there's a motion and a second to postpone for 2 weeks. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins? Yes. Doherty?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Okay. Councilmember DeLucy, item number 3.
Mr. City Manager, I was so happy to see that we were saving money. So I would like the citizens to know that we're saving money. So could we have a little bit of a presentation on item 3?
My pleasure. I'm going to ask our Director of Finance and Administration, Brian Kidney, to come share a positive update with the council.
Good evening, Brian Kidney, the Director of Finance and Administration. If you recall, I believe it was 3 months ago, we brought forward a proposal from MoPerm on renewal of our liability insurance. And at that time, their premium had shot up considerably, well over $1 million. At that time, we came to the council and said, we propose moving forward with the renewal of MoPerm, but with the idea that we would come back at a later date with different alternatives. And so that's what we've done. We've recently contracted with a firm named Charlesworth & Charlesworth. They're our insurance advisors. This was as part of our risk manager is retiring. We brought this firm on to help us more with the advising with salary savings, of course. And they worked with a broker, with Lockton Consulting Broker, and Sherry Weather is back here also tonight. And we really taxed them to get out there and try to find somebody that would insure us. Of course, keeping in mind that one of the reasons why our insurance rates had gone up so high was a lot of our liability, and then we also own an electric plant. So those two items together makes it difficult to find a lot of municipal people out there who will cover $300 million operations like we are. However, they did locate the insurance group named States. We applied for, and they've accepted our application to come in to the group. Instead of being the largest as we were with MOPERM. We're more down in the middle of the sizes of municipalities that they insure. And in doing that, yes, there was a considerable savings. I would love to say that just this great windfall of money. However, the savings you're seeing on here, which is approximately $615,000, is savings over what the increase would have been if we stayed with MOPERM. The rates are still high, and they're higher than they were in the past. The rates just aren't as high by $615,000 worth as they were with MOPERM. So we're excited about that. We've changed some things up. We've changed some retentions. Yeah, excited, right? Risk management, so exciting. But we've changed some retention around. The idea is we're going to take the premium cost and move them all into a risk management fund. And in order, we're hopefully going to use that like a self-insurance fund because each year of this program, the retention moves up. Currently, it's $150,000, then $200,000 next year, and then $250,000 a year after. So we know we'll have a lot more exposure, but at the same time, the premiums will be coming down during that time, and we're going to be hitting education and getting out to our departments and doing some risk assessment to try to get the liability exposure down, if you will. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh, if I may.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's a comedian in Vegas that says, it's not how much it costs, it's how much we save. How much are we saving in the difference? What you told me is that this is over and above what would have been the cost?
Actually, in the general fund, we will stay even. So the amount that we budgeted in the general fund for this fiscal year is the amount that we'll have in the next fiscal year's budget.
Alleviating the increase that would have been if we stuck with the company that we did.
Correct.
All right.
In tune of about $50,000 a month.
And we're working on getting that down, is what you're telling me.
Hopefully, yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember DeLucy?
I move approval of item 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Item number 3 passes. Councilmember DeLucy, 19715.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, we amended the pay plan back in October, and we're looking at a budget. We're going to be starting budget talks very quickly. Why, oh why, are we amending the pay plan now? Can it wait?
We're trying to bring these changes to the council quarterly, has been our current practice. Previously, these were coming to you on a very ad hoc basis. We've tried to slow those down to quarterly. I will tell you, we've been talking about internally in our own staff, you're very questioned there about just doing these as part of our budgetary process. Right now, we're trying to align some things in anticipation of budget, but it's a point that's well taken.
It's, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but every dollar counts. And so I will move approval, but I'm going to vote against it. I move approval of 19715.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
DeLucy?
No.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Item passes. Councilmember DeLucy, 19716.
19716 regards our travel policy, and I just thought the public might want to hear just a little bit of a presentation on the changes we're going to be making.
Mr. City Manager?
I would probably ask the management analyst who crafted this on behalf of the council to come give a quick update on that.
I don't
Tremendous.
believe
Yeah, fantastic.
Sorry. Maybe I'm. This was brought forward before the Audit and Finance Committee. That is staffed, of course, by our management analyst, who's unfortunately went home ill, I think, today. If the committee would like to speak to it, or perhaps Madam Say Clerk, if you were you're in those discussions as well. I don't really know who to refer this to.
I can speak generally to it. I'll do my best. The Audit and Finance Committee did provide some direction to the management analyst to really try to craft a travel policy that was more modern and in keeping with peer cities. We have been doing this really over the last 2 or 3 years, taking a look at city policies and procedures that touch a number of topics. So this wasn't uncommon that we'd be taking a look at this one too. We implemented and adopted one for city staff regarding approvals, trying to modernize that process, trying to bring more transparency to that process, and we're really trying to make that the council travel policy as close and in line with the city staff one as well. So what's being proposed here is that available funds be budgeted and travel be subject to appropriation each year for council. That amount, would certainly, vary year to year based on need and based on what the city finances look like. Really, a big change would be providing this information on the council agenda in the form of informational updates so that there is greater awareness. We've created a new portal online where we are posting city staff travel and then adding the council travel to that as well, really with a lot more robust information than what was previously provided. So a lot more detail, not only about where travel was going and how much it was costing, but the justification behind it. So as I mentioned, for enhanced transparency around that. I think that captures that as well as I can recall.
Yes, and the only other thing I'd mention, I'm on the Audit and Finance Committee. The only other thing would be that the rest of the council will be informed as to the lessons learned on these out-of-town trips, be that in an oral report or simply a memo attached to the agenda for the rest of us.
Okay.
I move approval of 19716.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Resolution passes. Before we move on to our public hearings, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. everybody could
Be the first one in April.
find a seat. The 1st and the 15th.
If I don't have a date, I don't operate.
You get a little hammer?
Okay, we will call the meeting back to order and proceed with our regular agenda. We have 2 public hearings this evening. Our first public hearing is for the application by Chow Bang requesting a rezoning from O1 office residential to R6 single-family residential for the property located at 2116 South Sterling Avenue. This is new information only. Mr. Scannell.
Good evening. My name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director, and there's no new information to report on this case since the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the council? This public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 19-018, an ordinance amending the zoning district map as to a tract of ground located at 2116 South Sterling Avenue from District 01 Office Residential to District R6 Single Family Residential in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes, ordinance passes. Our next is a public hearing for the application by Lynette Woods requesting a rezoning from R12 two-family residential to R18 PUD moderate density residential planned unit development for the properties located at 1917 and 1919 South Scott Avenue. This is new information only. Mr. Scannell.
Yes, there's no new information to report since the Planning Commission meeting.
Are there any comments or questions from the council? This public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 19-019, an ordinance amending the zoning district map as to a tract of ground located at 1917 and 1919 South Scott Avenue from District R12 two-family residential to District R18 PUD moderate density residential planned unit development and approve a preliminary development plan in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
DeLucy?
No.
Robertson?
No.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes, ordinance passes. This takes us to our non-ordinance action items. Madam City Clerk.
Non-ordinance action item number 1. Council action is requested to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Honeywell for the purchase and installation of advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, for the water pollution control, and power and light departments.
Discussion? Hearing none, please call. Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes, go ahead.
I have, first of all, a question, point of information. Neither one of these items have an opt-out. So I'm asking the city manager, is that going to be included? Are we going to include an opt-out? I'm not inclined to vote for any without an opt-out. So why is it not included? Is that a separate ordinance or resolution item, and why aren't we voting on that with it? I guess that's the question.
With all due respect, I think we'd be looking for direction from the council about whether we'd like to include an opt-out at this point.
Okay. So that's one thing that I would be looking for and would want to include in either one of these 2 ordinances. But I have several other comments that I'd like to make. And several of these include questions as well. So let me start because I want to compare the 2 ordinances or the 2 resolutions here on AMI for both the mesh system and the point-to-point system. So obviously in comparing the 2, and that's what we're doing tonight, the initial costs for the mesh system with Honeywell are approximately $2 million more than Core and Main, and is not with a final contract. So in other words, at this point it's about $2 million more, but we don't have a final contract, and there could be additional costs pending according to the contract. So when I go out and make any sort of purchase or do any sort of business, who of us can vote for and sign a contract to buy without a final price and terms? And so I'm asking the council, how can we make a vote for this particular contract for the mesh system with Honeywell when we don't even know the final price or the terms. Table 1 and the figures in Table 1 do not appear on Table 2. Now, I realize Table 1 is the initial cost, but I would think that it would also be included in the 15-year comparison of costs and expenses as well as the savings. So the second table, Table 2, is the 15-year table talking about the total expenses, including the operating and management and the software management and all those things included. And I believe the core and main meters are warranted for 15 years, but that was not evident on the Honeywell contract either. Honeywell's does not list the installation cost for the water meters. It only lists the cost. I guess it's the purchase cost. Is that right? The $4,877,000, that's the cost of the purchase of the meters, but it's not the cost of the installation, so we don't know what the installation is? That's correct. I can't hear you.
Why don't you come up so we can.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, Mark Randall, Assistant City Manager. If I can answer any questions, or some of our staff here, maybe we can do it.
So the cost in the Honeywell contract for $4,877,000, that is the cost of purchasing the water meters, the Badger meters, but it's not the installation. We don't have a figure in there for the installation?
The Honeywell contract includes installation. It's just they had an opt-out provision for you could buy the meters separately. So they're going to install the meters that we provide. But so Table 1 is trying to give you a kind of apples to apples comparison by taking the Honeywell contract, which does not include the meters themselves, but then adding in the cost for those separately purchased meters.
Okay.
So that gives you, so they are apples to apples on Table 1.
Okay. So on Table 2, then, if I'm reading this right, Table 2, the cost over 15 years, Honeywell is approximately $5,334,000 more.
Right.
Than the core and main contract for point-to-point.
Right. They're trying to, on Table 2, trying to give you what the payback would be over a 15-year life cycle.
Okay.
And this, and both of them are going to save the city a lot of money. There's going to be net savings to the city. It's just that one is more than the other. So the comparison would be that the net savings for the core and main is estimated at $44 million over 15 years, and it's $38.8 million estimate for the Honeywell with the additional Badger separately purchased meters added in for comparison purposes.
So why wouldn't we want to save $5 million more over 15 years? I guess that's the question.
Well, then that goes back, and I know you're so sick of hearing about AMI, but I hate to, and Mr. Lowell Croft did kind of give a good back history of this, but you remember from some of your discussions in the past the relative merits of mesh system versus point-to-point. And you had presentations by the top 5 rated providers, and it really came down to the top mesh provider versus the top point-to-point provider. So I think really that's the whole crux of the decision, is if you which of those systems you prefer, and if you prefer the mesh, if you're willing to pay the additional amount for that. So it's really it's a balancing act. It's a key decision that the council has to make.
So when we consider the difference in negotiations, Honeywell has been very difficult and time-consuming, and they've been refusing to use parts of the city contract, is my understanding.
Well, on that, I would defer to our city councilor. She's been our point person in the contract negotiations, and so I probably, if you wouldn't mind, she might want to weigh in on that one. I don't want to speak for her on that.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I have been working with Honeywell on this contract. This information is all very technical, and so we're getting to a point now where we've worked both agreements and we're looking for guidance from the council as to where you want us to focus our time and energy to get one or the other of these agreements wrapped up.
Okay, thanks. So I know it has taken a lot more time than we had planned on, so it has been difficult, in my opinion, to work with Honeywell, and I'm afraid that this may be a preview of their management style and their culture, and I think it will carry over, I'm afraid, in the installation process. So that's another concern I have with Honeywell. Several points that I've mentioned before when we've talked about this 6 months, a year ago. Honeywell's mesh system is much less secure. With a 900 megahertz unlicensed frequency, I have cordless phones at home, I have walkie-talkies that I can manipulate the frequency on, and all of those could pick up or intercept 900 megahertz, even though it's scrambled. It's going to be scrambled, it's going to be secure that way. But Honeywell also has minimal experience hosting only 12 utilities in North America. That means Canada and United States. Core & Main has hosted over 630 utilities, so I think they know what they're doing. Honeywell will not provide on-site management, according to some of the documents I've seen, during implementation, but Core & Main will. Honeywell will only provide outbound calls for customer engagement. Core & Main will provide a call center staffed with 6 live operators. There's just no comparison in the service that we're going to be provided by Core & Main. The RF exposure, which is a concern, is about 1,000 times greater for mesh, because it's setting up an intranet within the City of Independence. So the Honeywell mesh system is about 1,000 times more RF signals. With 20 towers for Core & Main, for the point-to-point system, there's going to be over 94 collector bases and many more for Honeywell. So the potential for interference with the 900 megahertz is much, much greater. And we're on the cusp of seeing 5G cellular service come to Missouri. They're implementing it in certain parts of the United States now, and when we talk about RF signal, that's going to be 10 times the RF signal, probably 1,000 times the RF signal that we have or would have with a point-to-point system. 5G, we cannot do anything as a city council. It's coming. The state of Missouri has already allowed them free access. We will not be able to stop it. It is coming, but it's likely that that will interfere, in my opinion, with the 900 megahertz system. The point-to-point system has its own frequency, and it's totally secure. Anyone planning to vote for this, what I call an incomplete contract with Honeywell, I want to hear the reasons. So I'm asking my colleagues, I see no reason to vote for Honeywell, because every single one of these things in the contract, including the money, including the RF, everything points to the point-to-point system as the much better, the much safer, the much more secure system. So, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman.
Mr. City Manager, I got on here that we're going to eliminate 15 jobs. How many jobs are we going to eliminate?
There are 21 positions associated with meter reading today. Over the 3-year deployment period, if cost savings were to be truly recognized by this, that would necessitate the elimination of 19 of those 21, so 2 being retained, 4 being brought back on to support that, 4 or 5 depending on which system we go with. That means 15 of those would need to be transitioned, whether that 4 of those will become eligible for retirement during the deployment period, which would leave 11 positions in flux.
Well, I see in this one contract here that says they're going to add people. I believe it's the Honeywell one, as an administrator of the mesh, that I didn't hear anybody speak about. Another problem I have with this, I worked for the city for 34 years. I've never ever seen a 15% contingency, and that's on both of these. I don't understand that. I've done a lot of contracts with the city. It's usually 10%. it's usually $1 million. This is 15%, we're talking 20+ million. That's a lot of money. That's about $4 million and I've never seen a lot of contingent money come back.
Yeah, I know, well, the project that you had that chance to be a manager on, council member, the IUC, where we had the guaranteed maximum price. Shannon really said it well a minute ago, the city councilor. We're at a point where we need to make a determination if we're doing AMI or not. So the reason we've asked for the 15% contingency is over that 3-year deployment period, unknown cost, also finalizing some of these terms. But in order, to be quite blunt, to get this issue decided and some of these vendors to begin to move forward on finalizing contracts and begin implementation, we are here tonight asking for that 15% so that we can get this issue decided.
All right. I have another little problem with addition. We're saving $2 million on employees. 2 times 9 is 18 million. I find that hard to hit that 44 million or whatever it was back there. I realize they're saying debt reduction. I have no clue what that is. It sounds like to me that our bills are going to go up rather than down, and I'm wanting to tell you right now I'm in for rate reduction in this city, and it sounds like to me that we're going right back and juicing people for more money here. I worked down there for all them years. I seen in all them years they test the meters every 7 years or so. Every one of them was 99.9, 99.8% accurate. There was 1 or 2. I think they had one here that said it was 50%. That's like rare. I'm really having a hard time trying to figure out how these numbers add up. Because, boy, I mean, I'm not no mathematician, but 8 times 2 is 16, or 8 times 9 is 18.
Yeah, I think that the total number, perhaps half of it or some amount, was based on, like you said, the personnel costs. There was also savings or new, there would be much less loss, line loss, for example, on the water side. Diversions that we experience would be eliminated through this. And there would also be more accurate meter reading, which would result in higher revenues unless you reduce rates, which is, as you said, this is a key thing to reducing rates. So one part of this would be a net neutral as far as revenue is concerned, but it would allow you to reduce rates. And one of the big problems we have is our rates are not competitive. They're too high compared to other people. This would allow you to reduce rates. One part that would be revenue neutral, but another part that would be a reduction based on the savings of overhead. So
sounds like I'm robbing Pete and paying Paul or whatever, you know.
Well, it probably would result in probably a 2% rate reduction, perhaps, once it was fully done.
Yeah, I noticed too. Councilman Robertson was saying the thing I seen in here was a warranty of 1 year. That's all I seen through all this paperwork. I've read it 2 or 3 times.
15.
Huh?
Core and main, I understand, is 15.
Manufacturer warranty was 1 year. Then, like I said, I'm totally against both of these. We're out here. We should be reducing these rates. We get them in line. As far as that water meter leaking, I don't understand why the city, if this is a problem, why haven't we just gone out and buy new water meters and install them? If that's the problem, I'm totally lost.
Well, that's just one of the aspects of it, that you would have more accurate readings. You'd have better leak detection would be part of it. There's a number of efficiencies involved with AMI and some of them relate to dollars and cents and some don't, but it would certainly have a reduction in rates, and there'd be, or savings that would result from it. Either one of them would. It's just a matter of which way you go.
You know, we've got to worry about Blue Valley. You're spending a lot of money here that could replace capacity or buy generation or combustion turbines. I think we've got a dollar chasing a dime out here right now. I don't understand where all this money's coming from. But like I said, I'm for rate reduction. So.
Well, I can't say that. Well, the one thing I would say is that, if I may, is that one of the main purposes of doing this is rate reduction. The amount that would be invested to do it is money that's currently in the fund balance. So you could do that And this is one of the ways that you could reduce rates. It would be, as it said, one of them was $44 million over 15 years, the other was, I think, 38.8. Either way, that would be money that you would not have to, you could either reduce rates or it would.
But I'm spending 30, I'm gonna spend 30 million and I'm gonna reduce rates 2%. Them numbers just don't work for me. I'm sorry. So I don't have anything else.
Any other discussion, Councilman?
I'm stating my opposition to AMI tonight. I'm not saying I always have this. The technology may come around at a later date. The reason that I believe we shouldn't do this is we have bigger problems. The closing of Blue Valley is ultimate. This is a plan after plan after plan that we've seen. This is deteriorating as we speak. This has a lifespan of between tomorrow and 3 to 4 years. We have to address this. We have to take our money. I sent a resolution to the utility board to address this, and they passed it. And they brought it back, and we're not moving on it. We're doing this. This is money that we may need. I'm not saying that we may not, and we've been told that we'd lose money or gain money before, and those figures have been assaulted and brought back and assaulted again. We're making money on the solar farm. We've made money on the solar farm. The point being is that we have to prioritize. Councilman's favorite words. Let's put them together and see. Well, this is a distant third at best. We have to close and cover the difference for Blue Valley. It's ultimate. This is money spent on something we have to do rather than we want to do. We don't need them. We have a working plan. We have opposition that says it will save us money. It may well do that, but let's do it after we get on stable ground, after we get us where we're supposed to be. We have bigger problems in the city. In 2023, we have a bill coming due. Is this utility here for us, or are we here for this utility? We're going to have to find a way to spread the wealth. And that means putting them on solid ground. And the solid ground is going ahead with Blue Valley. I, too, like Councilman Roberson, will not, cannot, and demand that we have an opt-out program. I don't want the program at all at this time. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Sorry.
Councilman. Go ahead.
So, Mr. City Manager, question to you. If both measures do not pass, then, still getting used to the glasses. If both measures do not pass, then what is our plan to move forward with updating or installing new meter boxes to keep up with deterioration and wear and tear that we have now? What process are we in with that?
We have, and Councilmember Huff highlighted this for you, we have a program where we try to cycle these out. I mean, whether it's a customer reporting an issue with their meter or just trying to be on a replacement cycle, we try to be diligent about getting through there and getting those cycled out in a timely and regular fashion so that to the best of the ability of the technology that we have, it remains reliable and technical and provide accurate readings for the customer.
Fair enough. So, after the 15-year warranty, then at what point and how quickly or less quickly do these boxes lose their value, that we have to build back up savings or look at our finances to replace those? Will that automatically just turn into how we replace our boxes now?
Yes, and I mean, and I think you've heard this referenced a little bit tonight too. It's just like your car or an appliance in your home. Some are going to last longer than others. Some are going to be more reliable than others. You're going to have a higher upfront cost today because you're going from nothing all the way in being over a 3-year deployment period, of course. But yes, we would, same as what we're doing today, we're going to need to stay diligent and attentive to cycling these out. If you know, technology begins to fail at a customer's home or business, just like we go out and cycle out and replace today. The largest upfront cost is going to be today when we're jumping all the way in, but it will require an ongoing maintenance program as with our meters that we have today.
So with both of the vendors, in the contract, it looks like that the manufacturer warranty will be there. So if something takes place and that meter fails, so will the vendor step up and take over where the possible failure by the manufacturer part took place, and will they step up and repair, fix, or make whole whatever that problem may be?
Yeah, during that warranty period, and that's where when the city council was saying that this has been a very technical process, and the terms used with me, we're trying to put as much teeth into this contract as possible to make sure that this city and its utility customers are not on the hook for any more costs other than the implementation and ongoing maintenance thereafter.
I was looking at find my space here. I was looking at the warranty on Article 12, but then it refers me to Exhibit E. Yes, E, and I don't see anything there.
Go ahead.
And we are still working through all of those details to make sure that what you all anticipate you're getting in the project and in the products is what you're going to get.
Sure. So the problem that I'm having is a moment, a Nancy Pelosi moment of you want us to vote on something but not know exactly what's in it. So I'm having one of those moments, and I would like to see some more full information before we have a formal vote, in my opinion.
You know, Councilmember, I can speak directly to that. We, and I don't mind just being perfectly blunt for you and the community watching tonight, it is time to make a decision because we need to know, we are expending a tremendous amount of energy working with 2 vendors, and quite frankly, some of those are being more responsive than others, and we need to, you know are we doing AMI, and who are we doing with it? And we need a policy decision from the council about where to expend our energy or to not expend our energy on this project any longer.
Sure.
Mr. City Manager? Because there are still questions about the details of these contracts, what, if one of these is approved tonight, what will be the process of coming back to the council with all of the detail that is currently missing? If we were to select one to proceed with this evening, what would that look like moving forward so that we're assured that these questions are answered?
And Madam Mayor, I would be more than happy to err on the side of caution and bring back this information both to the PUAB on a regular basis and to this council in the form of a study session, et cetera. But we can provide as much information as you want. We have tried to err on the side of caution, like to Councilmember Huff's question about the 15% contingency, so that our costs are erring on the high side. Really, what I'm having a hard time hearing, I'm sorry. We are really erring on the side of trying to put some of these documents together with as much teeth as possible, but I don't think that will greatly impact the deployment, greatly impact the functionality. It's more of some of these questions about you know, who's going to be responsible for what. But we would be more than happy to come back to the council and to your advisory board to provide as much of that information thereafter if one of these was approved this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Yes.
And if neither one was approved this evening, you could come back on this. I understand that you have had what you're trying to say is a wall. But no wine before it's time. If we have to err, let's err on getting it down. And just as Councilman with the opt-out, I mean, that has to be a part of it. And I think both of them ought to have that if there's a chance. I can't see that if we pass one, they're not in. I would like to say that, no, there's things here that we wouldn't do and stuff like that. But if we pass one, that's gone tonight, in my opinion. And I don't think it should be that way.
And Madam Mayor, I can take it one step further to say that, you know, what you would be approving tonight would be commitment to working with a vendor, and at the high side of the price, we can bring back the final, I mean, more than just a presentation, it can be finally approved by the council with those final, you know, terms. If the council wants to give some very specific guidance and direction on opt-outs, when we looked at this last April, we tried to research some other communities, and there's various approaches to opt-outs. Some are all in, some are more nuanced, so we'd be more than happy and probably even suggest the council give final endorsement to that contract as well with a more pointed level of specificity.
Okay.
I did read in here about the opt-out, but basically what it said in here was it'd be based on money on how many did not or did. So someone's got an opt-out thing out there. But it was just based on, I read it through here, it was something about the number of them doing it would affect the price. But one other thing, and that's this maintenance thing. After the 15 years, so I guess we go in and renegotiate this $9 million with someone or the same people that continues this program. And I mean, I'm not a fan of it, so I really don't do a bunch on that. But that's basically what we do. They're kind of the administrator.
Right.
And how's this going to work with the new billing cycle or system that we've had that's all fouled up? Is this going to make it worse, make it better? We're going to have another little loop here? Or?
No, I don't believe so. We both, that was a big part of our evaluation, was that these are compatible with the existing billing system.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Just to continue the conversation, so if one of these passes, then moving forward, how will we explain to our constituency that because of more accurate reading, in theory, more accurate reading, your rates are not going up, but your bill may increase a certain amount because of the accuracy? How will we plan on explaining that in a way that, one, makes sense? And have that continual information out there for them.
Right. So when I worked in a previous municipality that moved to water meters, the city of Kansas City, it's continuous communication. Had the opportunity to see the renowned publication This Week in the Creek, the Sugar Creek city newsletter this morning, and they are moving to AMI in that community. And it's very transparent in that publication that you may see some customers may see an increase in the bill, not because of increased rates, but because you're going to eliminate the fudge factor of being charged for your actual usage, so what's in your home. It really is a matter of constant and consistent communication throughout the implementation and deployment process.
Okay. Just don't want another repeat of the billing system. Don't want to go through another summer or two of that.
You know, and I will tell you, council member, I think the opportunity risk is a lot lower with this project. The utility billing system was a homegrown, city-developed software, which was very sophisticated for its time, but it became software code that was antiquated and no longer being taught in universities and programming schools any longer. So you're trying to migrate 57,000 customer accounts with legacy code system into a new billing system that, quite frankly, is very difficult to decipher. Here, you're walking up to a meter, pulling one out, placing another one on. The opportunity to screw that up is a lot less.
No, I take you at complete face value. It's everything else I get concerned about on that. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman.
Yes, and those concerns are mine too. These companies have had litigation in past against them when they've installed them in other places. We just got, and still have not gotten out of legal trouble for legal position. Trouble would be too, word not used, I would say. And I don't want to go back into anything like that. I think the time is not right, and I think our priorities are different.
Anything else? Before we vote on these two items, I would like to give direction to the city manager to include an opt-out in any negotiation regarding AMI. I can, Madam City Clerk, I can present that as a motion, or I can just, unless there is an objection from the council, I think that we can provide that direction. If the council would prefer, I can make that as a motion.
Well, I had put in everybody's box an option for the opt-out, and I've given it to the city manager and the city clerk.
So I will move that any further contract negotiation with the vendor for AMI will include an opt-out option. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, motion passes. Is there any further discussion on non-ordinance action item number 1? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
No.
Robertson,
No.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Number 1 fails. Non-ordinance action item number 2, Madam City Clerk.
Can I make a couple comments?
Can we read it first, please?
Okay.
Then we'll have discussion.
Council action is requested to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Core and Main for advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, for the water pollution control, and power and light departments.
Councilman.
So just a point of information first. So the opt-out would be included in this one as well, in either one, and it would be approved later on by the council, the wording and the way the opt-out was handled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just wanted to say a couple things, again, about AMI. First of all, I told a story, and this has been probably a year ago now, but I want to repeat it mainly because of your question, Councilmember Perkins. I had a meeting probably within a year of coming on the council with Leon Daggett, who was the director of IPL, and his assistant, Paul Malberg, with a constituent here in Independence that actually was a retired lineman for KCP&L, okay? And that lineman, one of his particular concerns was why does not the City of Independence have a regular plan to replace every meter in the city? KCP&L had a 10-year plan, and every 10 years, every meter in KCP&L's territory was replaced because they knew that they started to fail, and they got very inaccurate by the end of 10 years. And so this lineman told us the story of his house, whose meter in Independence did fail, and his electric bill for the month before it failed was around $100. The next month after he had his meter replaced, it was $220. He said, I'm not upset. He said, I know that I wasn't paying for all the electricity I was using. Other people were paying because their meters were more accurate, and mine was so old, and it was 30 years old. It was a 30-year-old meter. And he said mechanical meters, over time, the gears wear down. They get more and more inaccurate as time goes by. And so because of that, and he asked, and Mr. Daggett said, well, the former director, and he has continued it, we never had a plan to replace the meters until they failed. And so because of that, many of the meters, especially the older meters in Independence, were inaccurate. And I think even if this does not pass, we need to implement a policy of replacing every meter in Independence at least every 10 years. Now, these are going to be, the ones by Core and Main are warranted for 15-year warranty. That's probably one of the best I've ever seen. The other thing I wanted to say was about the savings. There's been questions raised about the savings for AMI. Yes, there would be savings as the numbers of meter readers decreased over time. We will never eliminate all the meter readers. And the more opt-out people that we have, the more meter readers we're going to need to have anyway. But the meter readers are not going to just read meters. They're going to be doing some other things, changing batteries and doing some other things as well. So the big savings for AMI is not eliminating the meter readers. The big savings are twofold. Number one, it's the shut-offs and turn-ons. We had almost 15,000 last year or the year before. Maybe it was the year before. That costs us a bundle of money. That's millions and millions of dollars just to have people go out and shut it off and go out and turn it on, and many of those were the same ones that were turned off that had to be turned on. So we can do that with AMI on the computer. Nobody has to go out. So that saves a lot in expenses and manpower going out to turn off and shut off and then turn on meters. And some of those have to be shut off down in the yard. You know how it is with the water meters. Many of them are in pits. So it's not just electric. It's electric and water. And that savings is huge, okay? The other savings is because people are tapping the electric line before the meter, and as a matter of fact, they're tapping the water line before the meter. And we're losing, according to some estimates that I've talked with, at least 10% of the water billing we're losing because it's being tapped before the meter. So people either don't know or they're just doing it on purpose, but they are taking water and electricity without paying for it. And that's not fair to the rest of our citizens that are paying for it. So there's a significant amount of savings that will be had because these meters, because of the sensors, will be able to tell if there's a loss of water pressure, for one thing, or a loss of electric current. So, I mean, there's sensors that are going to be able. Now, this particular electric meter that Core and Main has also has two fail-safes. It will not overheat. There's two different ones in this particular meter. The other one had only one. So I've talked to a number of people, and in most of the newer installations over the last 3 to 5 years, there has not been the fires. KCP&L had a number of them, but it was like 7 years ago, 5 to 7 years ago. So I hope that answers some of the questions, John, that you had. That's why I was trying to jump in, because I wanted to mention those things.
Sure.
Thanks.
Madam
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilman.
You did pose another question to me. So after the end of 15 years, I don't know who can answer this one. Technology is going to change dramatically. I'm going to be a little bit older. Will the newer technology, will that interface with the current system if one is proposed now? Will there be, my gosh, we have to go back for a major bid and do another overhaul because technology's different, it's changed, it's better, greater, less? How will that play out in 10, 15 years?
I would tell you, council member, that's just not something that we can answer. I mean, you know, is our car going to still be compatible with a gas pump in 15 years? Is
sure.
The council members' electric vehicles going to still be compatible with those? I mean, who knows? But I think, you know, the reason, as been stated, the reason staff is recommending this evening is because we know what it'll do for us today and the impact that it would have.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yes, Councilman.
And one thing to say, Councilman, we did have a program. I was in charge of that. We had a meter change out every 7 years down there. And like I said, of all the meters tested, there was 2. In 34 years, that was slower than 98.9, 98.8. As far as the the stealing of them, I was in charge of that also, and they steal in front of the meter, they don't steal after the meter, so I don't know how a meter's gonna indicate that, but I'm firsthand at that. Did it a long time.
Just to answer you, all I can tell you is the meeting about 5 years ago, Mr. Daggett said, that's true, we don't have a plan to replace all the meters. So I'm just going by what he said.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman.
Maybe we could have Mr. Daggett confirm what you say and come here, because when I was with him in New Orleans, and we had approached by people who said they had to be run by qualified people at that computer. And they have companies that come in to do that. We're not only not losing the people who do the job, we're going to have to add more people. In comparison to closing, once again, to beat the horse, Blue Valley, this is not the time or the place. And Mr. Daggett, in some conversations, has also, to me, confirmed that this may not be the best of things to do.
Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
No.
Perkins.
No.
Doherty.
No.
DeLucy.
No.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
No.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Number 2 fails. Okay, this takes us to our second readings, Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 19-013, an ordinance amending the City of Independence Power and Light Department's schedules of electric rates to include an electric vehicle charging rate schedule, EV1, beginning March 1st, 2019, under which electric utility service shall be furnished to all customers of Independence Power and Light at its public charging stations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? I was not here a couple weeks ago when this was first being discussed, but I did watch the council meeting, and I thought, and some of the discussion about this, Mr. City Manager, I'm comfortable at this point moving forward and supporting this, but I do think that further research is probably in order to continue to see if we can achieve a better rate on these electric charging stations. I think that we need to move forward this and show our commitment to making this service available in our community, but I would ask that we continue to do our own independent research on this issue, and maybe perhaps at a later date, if we're able to achieve a better rate on this, that this be brought back and amended for the council's consideration.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins. Yes. Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19-020, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Independence, acting through its municipal utility, Independence Power and Light, and MCI Metro Access Transmission Services Corp. for the pole attachments. This will have no effect on any tax revenues or general revenues. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
No.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes. Madam City Clerk.
This next bill receives first reading tonight and its second reading and consideration by the council at the next meeting on April 1st. Bill number 19-021, an ordinance authorizing execution of municipal and cost apportionment supplemental agreement number 1 with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the US 24 Highway Bridge Replacement Project, authorizing the city manager to approve minor amendments to the agreement and making the necessary appropriations.
Okay, thank you very much. This takes us to council member comments. I will start on my right with council member Doherty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next week, I'm going to have a little informational thing on temporary signs. specifically the little flags that the different businesses put out in front of their building, announcing a sale or announcing a new business open. We've got a lot of different situations where some are left out till they've tattered into shreds, some are picked up immediately, and it's just not very consistent. So next study session, plan to take a few minutes and have some discussion on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Perkins.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Huff.
Nothing this evening.
Councilmember DeLucy.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I wanted to say thank you to a number of people. We had our second annual HOA Summit, Homeowners Association Summit, this last Wednesday night. It was over at the police building. We had actually 75 people in attendance, which was more than had RSVP'd, but we were thrilled to have them there. I wanted to, first of all, thank John Mayfield, who helped me in the planning of both this one and last year's HOA Summit, and Christina Heinen, who was there with me and helped that night at the summit and helped set things up for us. The three presentations that were made to members of the HOA boards that were there was Eric Erfer from Parks and Rec and Tourism. So Eric, thank you for the great presentation. You had a lot of great information for those folks. Chief Doug Short from the Fire Department, and thank you to Chief Short for his presentation. It also was excellent. He gave a lot of good information about the firefighters' independence and emergency preparedness. And then Chief Brad Halsey, thank you, Chief, for your presentation, and Sergeant Daryl Smedley, who was there, and two of the other officers. So we had four officers from the police department that presented on Wednesday night. So it was a very informative, very good evening. We went about an hour and a half, and they had a lot of good discussion even after the meeting among themselves. So I want to thank all these people for the time and preparation that they put in for that meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recently was approached by a constituent, and they had trouble with their neighbors and their properties. And it turns out that we got not one, but two new people for the rental ready, two new landlords. This is what's happened. This is what the greatest, most successful, maybe not the greatest, most successful program in Independence. Not one landlord complaint, and we've doubled it, and we tripled it, and we will get more. There's a process here, and when people who are concerned say that there's 5 letters, well, sometimes 5 letters is what it takes. But we have more than made up the difference and should have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have been out of town the last few weeks, some on personal business. John Mayfield and I traveled to Washington, D.C. To participate in the National League of Cities Conference, and had the opportunity to visit with Senator Blunt and Senator Hawley when we were there. One item that I want to make sure everybody is aware of, a discussion that really kind of got escalated last summer about the Truman Visitor Center, which is currently housed in Old Fire Station #1 up on Main Street on the square. Well, that facility has really become inadequate for the National Park Service, and they were seeking to locate another location someplace in Independence. And the options were considerable about the location that they needed to be. The only requirement would be that they be within, I believe, 5 miles of the Truman home. So we can imagine that that could have been quite a ways from the Independence Square. The National Park Service came to town. The district superintendent came to town on a couple of occasions to discuss with us a location. One consideration was the Higher Ground Inn, which is across the street from the Truman home, which caused some concern for our retailers on the Independence Square, that it would take that foot traffic off of the square, which they are very dependent upon. Senator Blunt graciously stepped in and introduced a bill that would allow for the visitor center to be located on a piece of city property that this council unanimously voted to convey to the National Park Service, which is right in between the bus station and the Independence Arts and Technology Center. This open space just across the street here on Nolan Road from, or on Truman Road from City Hall. Thanks to the bipartisan support from Senator Blunt and Congressman Cleaver, that bill passed both the Senate and the House. The National Park Service had a meeting with our city staff this past week. They did an evaluation of this site and the higher ground, and it was outscored 8-1 in favor of this site on Truman Road. So all that being said, in a nutshell, this has been moved up to this district's. One of their top priorities is to proceed with the construction of a new visitor center, Truman Visitor Center, for the National Parks Service. So we are dealing with the federal government, which means there's plenty of checks and balances to go through before we see construction, but we're very optimistic that we will be seeing progress being made on that site fairly soon. The other benefit, we kind of get a 2-for-1, is that we get the old fire station #1 back. So that gives us an opportunity to do, it needs about $400,000, Mr. Urfer, of deferred maintenance repairs, but it gives us an opportunity to utilize that for an additional tourist attraction for the city of Independence. So we really went to DC to meet with Senator Blunt to thank him for his leadership in moving this forward, and Congressman Cleaver's leadership in the House. And I think that all in all, it turned out to be a tremendous solution for our city, and will certainly greatly increase tourism activity in our city and up around the square. We also visited with Senator Blunt about the COPS program. It's a grant that the city applies for that can fund up to potentially up to 15 police officers. We've received this grant in the past. It's a 3-year grant. Sometimes we're not able to retain all of those officers because of budget constraints, but it does help us to put officers on the street. That grant application process has been held up, and we have asked the senators to both please advocate on our behalf to get that. We're not asking them to support our application, we're just asking them to please move that forward so that we can put in our application, and they were both very supportive of that as well. As I think many of us know, Senator Blunt has been a very strong advocate for public safety and especially mental health services, so he's very eager to help us in those things. Some maybe less happy news is the president's budget is anticipated to include cuts to programs like CDBG, which is our Community Development Block Grant funding, which has been a fantastic tool for us in countless projects in low-income and moderate-income neighborhoods, so we're going to have to watch that. The Tiger program is also expected to experience some cuts in the president's budget, so we will be keeping a close eye on that and likely having future trips to Washington, D.C. to advocate for the retention of funding for the Tiger program, which is the fund that we fund infrastructure improvements with, and the CDBG money. Regarding AMI, I think President Truman said that democracy thrives when there is debate, and so democracy is certainly in good hands. I will say we have spent a considerable amount of time, a considerable amount of our city resources researching this issue, and I voted in favor for both of these because I've become convinced in all of the independent research that we have done and the studies that we have commissioned that every one we've done has said we should do AMI. We should do it for the future financial health of our city. Our PUAB certainly has spent a considerable amount of time studying this issue for us and has also unanimously endorsed doing AMI. I respect all the questions that the council members have and the decision that each one made this evening. And I'm disappointed that we are not moving forward with something that I do think is something that this city does need, but we will continue to listen to our constituents. We will continue to manage our funds. We will continue to look for opportunities to manage our utilities in the best way possible for the prosperity and health of our community. That's all I have this evening. Mr. City Manager.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
We are adjourned.